Again, we'll continue looking at truth tables and checking arguments for validity. So as I've done in the previous lectures, I just have the definitions here for valid and invalid. Again, we only care about instances in which all the premises are true, and then we can determine if the argument is valid or invalid based on those situations, and it's valid if in all the situations in which the premises are true, conclusions also true, and it is invalid when we have at least one instance in which all the premises are true and the conclusion is false. Now, looking at this first one, we have two premises, one here, and then here's our conclusion. So we have three operators here in this first premise. Within the set of parentheses here, we've got two operators. We've got the wedge and the tilde. Since the tilde is just functioning over the p, we got to do the tilde first. And so we're going to take the values of p and flip them like so. And then we can include the wedge. We'll ignore this tilde outside for right now. So remember that a wedge is true wherever one of the sides are true. So in all these situations, it will be true. And these two will be false. And then we can get rid of this column because it won't be anything important that we need. Erase this stuff. And then finally, we just have to flip those values in this column over from T's to F's. Like so. And we should get rid of this other middle column so then we don't get confused later once we do our evaluation for validity. So now here in the second premise, it's just the arrow. RQ is our left side, so we're going to look for where it's false. R is our right side, so we're going to look for where it's true. In those situations, the arrow is true. In these other two, it's false. And then finally, we have our conclusion. We have two different operators. The tilde is just functioning over the p, so we'll flip the p values from f's to t's and t's to f's. And then we have to do the arrow. So remember that this is our left side technically. Our R is our right side, or our consequent. So where is our left side false? And where's our right side true? Those instances it's going to be true. And then we can erase this column here. We won't need it anymore. And so now we can do our evaluation. Where are all the premises true? Well, they're all true there, and they are all true here. We can ignore these other ones because at least one of the premises are false. Or at least one of them is false. And then looking at our values for our conclusion, well, they're both true, so this will be valid. And since it's valid, there's no counterexample. Looking at the second one, we've got two premises here, one here, and then here's our conclusion. So we've got two different operators here in the first premise. We'll have to do the one that's inside the premises first, or inside the parentheses. And so using P and R, wherever P is false or R is true, it's true. And in the other situations in which the P is true and the R is false, it's false. So there's that. Then we just have to include our ampersand. which is a Q. So where are they both true? They're both true here. They're both true here. Both true here. Oh, both true here. And everywhere else they're false. So now we can get rid of this column here. We don't need it anymore. And with these tildes, they're pretty easy. We just got to flip values from the key. So, and now we can do our evaluation. Where are our premises true? Looks like it's just right there. All these other ones, at least one of them is false, and our conclusion is true here, so this one is also valid. And we don't need a counterexample when it's valid. Look at this next one, we only have one premise, and we have our conclusion. So looking at the premise, we've got three different operators here. We have a wedge within the parentheses, so we'll have to do that one first. So we'll ignore all of these other ones. So we're just focusing on Q or R, where is at least one of the sides true here. So true, 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 true. And these other ones are going to be false. And then we can bring back in our tilde, because the tilde is tildeing the Q or R, so we'll just flip all these values. Like so. And then we can erase these. And bring back in our P and ignore these. And so where are both of these true? Well, there's only one. That's right here. And so the rest of these are going to be false. And we can get rid of this column here. Now we can do this conclusion. There are three operators here. So it looks like the tilde is just attached to the Q here, so we'll have to do that one first. Flipping these values. Then we'll bring in the P. We'll keep the ampersand R out for right now. So we're going to compare those with the P, and we're going to look for instances in which they are both true. Here's one. And here's one. The rest of them are going to be false. And then we just have to bring in ampersand R. So where are those true? Both of them are true here, and that's it. So the rest of them are false. And we can erase this middle column here so we don't get confused. Since we only have one premise, we just gotta check it for any one that's true. Well, there's only one that's true, and in that situation, the conclusion's false. So this is gonna be invalid. And we need a counterexample. And so for that counterexample, we'll just copy those. And that's that one. Look at this one. We have two premises. Both of them are pretty easy because they're only one operator. So R arrow P, remember that this R is our left side, so we gotta check it as the antecedent. So wherever it's false, it's true. And then our P is our consequent, so we're looking for wherever it's true. And in those situations, it's gonna be true. And the other situations, it's gonna be false. Looking at the next one, P or Q, where's P true, where's Q true. In those situations, those are going to be true. The other ones are going to be false. And then finally, our conclusion is a little bit more complicated. We got 3 different operators here. The arrow's outside the parentheses, so we know we're doing that one last. The tilde is just functioning over the R, so we got to do that one first. So just reversing the values here on R. So, and then we'll bring back in the double arrow, looking for where the Q and those values of tilde R are matching. They match in those two and these two, so those will be true. And then we can bring back in our arrow P. So the P is going to be our right side. These are going to be our these values here underneath the Q double arrow tilde R are going to be our left side. So we're looking for where those are false. And we're going to look for where P is true. Those are all going to be true. And these other two are going to be false. And from that, we can start to do our evaluation. Where are all the premises true? They're all true there, all true there, all true there, all true there, and all true there. So we can eliminate these 2 rows. We don't need to look at them. And let's look at our conclusion. Well, it's true, 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 oh, false. So based on this one, it's going to be invalid. And it's going to be a counterexample of FTF. That. So looking at this one, we have 2 premises. We got one here. Looking at this first one, we have 2 different operators. The tilde is outside the parentheses, so we'll ignore it right now and just focus on the arrow inside. So the arrows can be true wherever the left side Q is false or the right side is true. So all these are going to be true. The only place in which it's false is where the antecedent or left side is true and the right side or consequent is false. And so now we can bring back in the tilde and we're just going to flip these values like so. And we can get rid of this column here so it doesn't confuse us. And then we'll work on this next one. We have 2 operators again. Here we have an ampersand. So we're looking for where they both match. Both match here and here. So, or sorry, they both are true there. In these other instances, at least one of them is false. And then you just have to flip these values over. So, and we can erase those. And that gives us the values for that sentence there. Then we just have to do the conclusion. So we have a double arrow within the parentheses. We need to do that one first. So double arrow is true wherever they both match. They'll both match here, 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 and here. And the rest of them are false. Then we have to flip those. Place those there so we don't get confused. And then we just got to bring in our wedge P. And that's going to say that they're true wherever one of these are true. So that's going to be true in these situations. And just false right here and here. So we can get rid of these. And now we'll check for validity. We'll see that we have two instances in which we have true premises. And in those instances, the conclusion is also true. So this one is going to be valid. And since it's valid, we don't need a counterexample. Look at this next one. We have two premises. We've got one here. And we've got one here. Look at the first one. We've got three different operators. Within the parentheses, there are two. There's the wedge and the tilde. The tilde is functioning just over the P, so we got to do that one first. So we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And flipping over the values for P. Then we bring back in the wedge. So wherever one of them is true, it's true. And then the other situations, it's false. I'm just going to go ahead and erase that. So those are false. Now we just got our double arrow. We got to see where they match. And we've got our R, so I'm going to fix these so I don't think about them. So where they match here, they match here, they match here, they match here. The rest of them don't match, so that's going to be true here, 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 and here. And then the rest of these are going to be false. So next, looking at the next premise, we've got two different operators. R is not a truth value, but we're just going to flip these values, so T's will become F's. And then we'll compare that with the Q, looking for instances in which one of them is true. And these instances, they're false, so there's that. Then we can just erase these, need them. And then finally, with our conclusion, we've got two operators again. The tilde is just functioning over the P, so we'll do that first. Then we just got to compare them with R, and we see that we have both truths there and both truths here. So these two are true, the rest of them are false. And we can erase this and do our evaluation. So looking at our premises, these both are true. And this one down here, they're both true. And then looking over at our conclusions, well, we've already got one false one there, and we got another false one down there, so this is going to be valid. And our counter example, so we got a couple, or at least we got two. I'm just going to choose this top one, like that. Here again, we've got two different purposes. Here, here. We've got three operators here in this first one. The tilde is just functioning over the P. The arrow is within the parentheses. So the wedge is actually going to be our main operator here. It doesn't matter if we do the tilde P first or the arrow. It just matters that we do the wedge last. So we'll just do the tilde P first. And then focus on the arrow. Q arrow R. It's going to be true wherever the left side's false or the right side's true. Then we just have to focus on the wedge, so where are one of these sides true? In all those situations, so it's going to be true, 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 true. Erase all this stuff here. Don't need it anymore. Get rid of some of these lines so then we don't get confused. Then we can move over to our second premise. So there are two operators here. Tilde is just functioning over the P, so we got to do that one first. And then we need to do the ampersand with R, so we'll ignore those. Where are they both true? They're both true here, and they're both true here. And the rest of these are going to be false. So we can use this here. Don't need it anymore. And then our conclusion is this one right here, just the Q. So looking first, where are instances of all true premises? It looks like those are our two. What's the value of our conclusion in those instances? Well, we've got one that's true, and we've got one that's false, so it's going to be invalid. And with it being invalid, we need a counterexample. And that counterexample has to be this fourth row here. So that's that one. Here's our last one. So we've got two premises. One is just a single letter, just a single proposition. So that one's there. This longer one is our second premise, and then our third one is right here. So you don't have to do anything with the first premise, but we've got three operators here for the second premise. Within those parentheses, we've got two different operators. The tilde is just functioning over the R, so we have to do that one first. And as we've seen before, just got to flip the values from the key Next, we're going to focus just on the arrow, or sorry, can't do that. The arrow needs the tilde r, so we're going to just focus on that. Our Q is our left side, so where's our left side? False. That's where our left side or our antecedent's false. Where's our right side? True. It's true in all those situations. And so it's going to be true here, 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 here. And in these situations, it's going to be false. So erase that. We don't need this middle column anymore. It's just going to confuse us. Eliminate it. And then we'll bring back the double arrow P. We'll ignore those. And so where do the values match? Well, they match here. And here. So they're going to be true in these situations and false in the others. And erase this column now because we won't need it anymore. And then finally we have the conclusion here. So tilde has to get done first. And then we can do the arrow. So our R is our left side or our antecedent. So where's our antecedent? False. Where's our consequent or our right side? True. And in those situations, it's going to be true. In these other situations where the antecedent is false, or where the antecedent is true and the consequent is false, it is going to be false. Get rid of this column here. And now we just have to check for instances in which the premises are all true. Got one here, got one here, and got one here. So we can make these other lines. And look at our conclusion. Our conclusion is true in all three instances, so that's going to make it valid. And since it's valid, we don't need a counterexample. So that concludes this lecture on truth tables.